In this episode, we begin with a question that sits near the center of security leadership, and that question is how an organization decides where it is going with security before it starts spending time, money, and attention on scattered activities. For someone new to cybersecurity, the phrase information security strategy can sound abstract, as if it belongs only in executive meetings or polished presentations. The simpler truth is that strategy is the long-range thinking that helps an organization decide what it is trying to protect, why that protection matters, what risks deserve the most attention, and how security efforts should support the mission over time. Without that kind of direction, security work often becomes reactive, fragmented, and driven by the loudest current problem instead of by a clear understanding of what the organization needs. A strong strategy does not eliminate every challenge, but it gives the organization a way to make decisions with purpose instead of drifting from one issue to the next without a coherent plan. Before we continue, a quick note. This audio course is a companion to our course companion books. The first book is about the exam and provides detailed information on how to pass it best. The second book is a Kindle-only ebook that contains 1,000 flashcards that can be used on your mobile device or Kindle. Check them both out at cyberauthor.me in the Bare Metal Study Guide series. A good place to start is by separating strategy from the other terms that people often mix together. A strategy is not the same thing as a policy, a project plan, a tool purchase, or a short-term response to a recent incident. A policy explains expected behavior and requirements. A project plan describes how specific work will be completed, and a tool purchase is only one possible action within a much larger picture. Strategy sits above those things and gives them meaning. It answers questions about direction, priorities, trade-offs, and desired outcomes. If an organization buys a new security platform without a strategy, it may have a new tool, but still no clear answer to why that tool matters most, what problem it is solving, how success will be measured, or how it fits with the larger goals of the business. That is why effective security leadership begins by thinking strategically before moving into detailed actions. One of the most important things to understand is that an effective information security strategy must be tied to the organization itself rather than built as a generic model copied from somewhere else. Every organization has its own mission, services, data types, obligations, systems, risk tolerance, customer expectations, and operational pressures. A hospital, a bank, a manufacturer, a university, and a software provider may all need strong security, but the nature of what they are protecting and the consequences of failure will not look exactly the same. A useful strategy must reflect that reality. It needs to ask what matters most in this environment, which business processes are most critical, which information is most sensitive, which disruptions would be most damaging, and which legal or contractual obligations shape the security posture. When strategy grows directly from organizational reality, it becomes more practical and more respected because people can see that it was designed for the work they actually do. That is why business alignment is such a central part of security strategy. New learners sometimes imagine that security exists to slow down risky behavior wherever it appears, but in real organizations, security is most effective when it helps the organization achieve its goals with lower risk and greater resilience. This does not mean security should simply approve whatever the business wants. It means security should understand what the business is trying to accomplish and then shape protection in ways that support those objectives responsibly. If a company is expanding into new markets, using more cloud services, handling more sensitive customer data, or increasing dependence on digital operations, the security strategy needs to recognize those changes and respond to them. Security becomes stronger when it is connected to real business direction, because leaders are more likely to invest in and support security efforts that are clearly tied to continuity, trust, compliance, growth, and operational stability. An effective strategy also begins with understanding the current state, because organizations cannot make wise decisions about the future if they have only a vague idea of where they stand now. Current state understanding includes more than knowing which tools are installed or which policies exist on paper. It means understanding the actual condition of the security program. Are roles and responsibilities clear? Are important assets identified? Are sensitive data sets known and classified? Are critical controls working consistently? Are incidents handled in a disciplined way? Are employees aware of their responsibilities? Are leaders receiving useful reports about risk and performance? These kinds of questions help reveal whether the organization has a solid foundation or whether major gaps exist beneath the surface. A strategy built without that honest view of the current state often turns into wishful thinking, because it tries to design the future without first understanding the real starting point. Risk understanding is another core ingredient because security strategy is ultimately about deciding where limited attention and resources should be focused. No organization can do everything at once, and no strategy can be effective if it assumes unlimited money, unlimited staffing, and unlimited time. That means risk must be used to guide prioritization. The organization needs to think clearly about what could go wrong, how serious the consequences would be, where exposures are concentrated, and which weaknesses create the greatest danger to critical operations, sensitive information, legal responsibilities, or public trust. This does not mean strategy is only a list of worst-case fears. It means risk provides a disciplined way to connect security choices to consequence. Without that connection, strategy often becomes driven by fashion, noise, or recent headlines. A stronger strategy asks what matters most here, what threats are most relevant here, and what actions will reduce the most meaningful exposure for this particular organization. Once the current state and major risks are understood, the strategy needs a clear picture of the desired future state. This is where vision becomes useful, but vision should not be confused with vague ambition. A good future state view is specific enough to guide decisions while still broad enough to support long-term direction. It may describe a goal such as building stronger governance, improving visibility into assets and risks, maturing incident response, increasing consistency in access control, strengthening third-party oversight, or making security more deeply integrated into business and technology planning. The purpose is not to create a perfect image that hides every difficulty. The purpose is to define what the organization is trying to become so that daily efforts move in a consistent direction. When the future state is clear, leaders can make better choices about investments, staffing, process improvement, and sequencing because they know what larger outcome they are trying to build over time. Prioritization is where strategy becomes especially valuable because it forces the organization to make deliberate choices instead of trying to do everything equally. Many security programs become overextended because they keep adding responsibilities without deciding what truly comes first. An effective strategy accepts that not every problem can be handled immediately and that sequencing matters. Some gaps may need urgent attention because they affect critical risk, while others can be addressed later as part of longer-term maturity. Prioritization may be influenced by business impact, regulatory pressure, dependence on a specific system, recent incident lessons, resource limits, or the need to build foundational capabilities before more advanced work can succeed. This is one reason strategy is different from enthusiasm. Enthusiasm may produce a long list of worthy ideas, but strategy decides which ideas deserve action first, which ones should wait, and which ones may not be necessary at all in the current environment. An effective security strategy also depends on stakeholder involvement, because security cannot become a meaningful organizational capability if it is designed in isolation. A strategy written only by one team, without input from business leaders, technology leaders, operational staff, legal advisors, privacy professionals, compliance functions, and other key voices, may look complete on paper but fail during implementation. Different stakeholders see different parts of the organization and understand different consequences of security choices. Business leaders understand mission and operational pressure. Technology teams understand systems and dependencies. Legal and compliance teams understand obligations and reporting requirements. Operational leaders understand what will or will not work in practice. Bringing these perspectives together helps the strategy become more realistic and more credible. It also creates broader ownership, which matters because people are more likely to support security direction when they understand how it was formed and how it connects to the work they are already responsible for. Governance gives the strategy structure and staying power. Without governance, even a thoughtful strategy can fade into a document that sounds impressive but changes very little. Governance helps turn strategy into accountable action by clarifying who approves priorities, who owns major initiatives, who monitors progress, who accepts risk, and who resolves conflicts when business needs and security needs pull in different directions. This is where executive sponsorship becomes important. If senior leadership does not support the strategy, difficult security improvements may lose momentum the moment they affect budget, timing, or convenience. Governance also helps keep the strategy connected to organizational decision-making instead of leaving it as a side effort managed only by the security function. A strategy becomes much more effective when leadership attention, reporting, oversight, and accountability structures are strong enough to keep security priorities visible even when other urgent business demands begin competing for time and resources. Resources and capability building are another major part of strategy, because direction without capacity quickly turns into frustration. An organization may understand its risks clearly and even agree on a sound future direction, but progress will remain limited if it does not consider the people, skills, tools, processes, and partnerships needed to carry that direction forward. Effective strategy asks not only what should be improved, but also what capabilities must exist to make those improvements real. That could include stronger awareness and training, better incident coordination, more mature asset management, more reliable risk reporting, improved third-party oversight, or clearer policy ownership. Sometimes the strategic need is not a new technology at all. It may be staffing, process redesign, leadership support, or better communication between teams. This is important for beginners to understand because strategy is not a shopping list. It is a disciplined effort to build the right mix of capabilities so that security can function in a repeatable and reliable way. Measurement is also essential because a strategy should not exist in a world where no one can tell whether progress is happening. A useful strategy includes some way to evaluate whether the organization is becoming stronger, more consistent, and better aligned with its goals. This does not mean collecting every possible metric. In fact, too many measurements can distract from what matters. The better approach is to focus on information that helps leaders understand movement, risk, and performance in a meaningful way. That may include evidence of improved control coverage, reduced exposure in critical areas, stronger response readiness, better completion of required reviews, or improved awareness across the workforce. Measurement matters because strategy is not only about intention. It is about results over time. When progress can be seen and discussed clearly, the organization can adjust more intelligently, defend investments more effectively, and avoid the trap of assuming improvement simply because work is happening. Communication is another key part of an effective strategy because even a sound direction can fail if people do not understand it. A security strategy must be explained in a way that different audiences can absorb. Executives may need to hear how it supports business resilience, trust, and risk reduction. Managers may need to understand what responsibilities are changing and what support will be required. Employees may need a simpler explanation of how the strategy will affect behavior, training, access, reporting, or day-to-day expectations. Communication is not just a launch event or a slide deck. It is an ongoing process of reinforcing priorities, clarifying why changes matter, and helping people understand what the organization is trying to build. This matters because strategy is not effective simply because leaders approve it. It becomes effective when the people affected by it can connect the larger direction to their own responsibilities and begin acting in ways that support the intended future state. A strong strategy must also remain adaptable because organizations change and security conditions change with them. New technologies are adopted, markets shift, regulations evolve, acquisitions happen, incidents reveal weaknesses, and business priorities move in directions that may not have been obvious when the strategy was first written. That is why an effective strategy should be reviewed and refined over time rather than treated like a fixed statement that never needs adjustment. Adaptability does not mean constant chaos or abandoning long-term direction whenever something new appears. It means maintaining enough awareness and discipline to recognize when assumptions need updating and when priorities must be revisited. The most useful strategies are stable in purpose but flexible in execution. They keep the organization oriented toward a clear security future while still making room for learning, changing conditions, and better information as the environment develops. When you step back and look at the full picture, developing an effective information security strategy becomes much easier to understand. It is the process of deciding how security will support the organization over time through clear direction, informed prioritization, realistic capability building, and accountable follow-through. A good strategy begins with understanding the organization, its risks, and its current state, then moves toward a clear future vision supported by governance, stakeholder engagement, measurement, and communication. It does not try to solve everything at once, and it does not mistake activity for progress. Instead, it helps the organization make better decisions about what matters most, what should happen first, and how security can become a durable part of responsible business leadership. That is why strategy matters so much in security governance, and why learning to think strategically is one of the most important steps on the CISM path.
Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.